Hollywood is all about sparkle and clapping, but for Sally Field, being famous hasn't always been nice. Behind her big smile and her shiny Oscar awards, there's a list of actors she worked with that she really, really didn't like. Some of them were huge movie stars, and some of them hurt her feelings when she didn't expect it. Now she's 78 years old, and she finally decided to tell everyone the truth. She's talking about the actors who made her work feel like a bad dream instead of something fun. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear will change how you think about Hollywood forever. Number 1. Burt Reynolds, the man who broke Sally's heart. When Sally Field first met Burt Reynolds, most people who watched movies thought he was super handsome with an amazing smile and natural coolness. When you watched him on the movie screen, he seemed magical and exciting. The movies Smokey and the Bandit and Smokey and the Bandit 2 looked like they had amazing sparkle and connection between them. But when the cameras weren't filming, Sally's real story was nothing like a happy fairy tale at all. She once said something really sad. "I never felt like he truly saw the real me when I was around him. It was like I was standing in the same room, but I might as well have been invisible." Reynolds, she remembered, had a special way of being charming and nice to everybody else in the room while secretly making her feel bad and unimportant. He would interrupt her when she was talking in the middle of her sentences. Her ideas and thoughts were pushed aside like they didn't matter at all. When he gave her compliments, they never felt real or honest. What everyone watching from the outside saw as flirting and romance was actually hiding something mean. He was controlling and dismissive of her feelings. To Sally, his charm was like a sharp knife that sometimes hurt her feelings even worse than if he had just been mean to her face. The problems between them weren't just about their personal relationship. It affected their acting work too. Movie scenes that should have been fun and exciting felt heavy and uncomfortable instead. When they practiced their lines together, it became like a test of how much she could hold back her real feelings. Field said she felt like she was just a pretty trophy or accessory he showed off, rather than being treated as an equal partner. She was always worried and aware that if she made even one small mistake, he might give her an angry look or stop talking to her completely with cold silence. She really tried hard to deal with it by being patient, acting professional, and even trying to use humor to make things better. But the sadness and stress in her heart stayed with her for a long time. Even many years after it happened, Sally didn't hide from telling the real truth about what happened. "I really wanted to love him so much. I actually did love him. But loving him hurt my heart way too much." Their relationship never got fixed or became friends again in public where people could see. And while Burt kept on living his fancy, Hollywood life like nothing happened, Sally quietly carried the emotional pain and scars from what happened. It's an important reminder that even the brightest, most shining star can create a dark shadow that falls on the people standing next to them, and that sometimes, hidden behind all the fancy glamour and charm, there's a sad story that nobody ever expected to hear. Number 2. Tommy Lee Jones, too cold and mean to work with. The very first day that Sally Field walked onto the movie set to work with Tommy Lee Jones, she immediately knew that something was very wrong. He didn't say hello to her, he wouldn't look at her in the eyes. There was just this invisible wall of silence around him that was so thick and heavy it made the entire room feel cold and uncomfortable. For Sally, who really needed to feel connection and trust with the actors she worked with, it felt like she was trying to act alongside a ghost who completely refused to admit that she even existed in the same space. "He almost never spoke to me at all," she told people later. "It was like he thought I didn't belong there with him at all. That icy, freezing coldness between them never got better or warmer." During the breaks between filming scenes, Sally tried making small, friendly conversation. She tried telling light, funny jokes. She even asked him questions about the characters they were playing in the movie. But Jones gave her absolutely nothing back in return. He would say his lines from the script, stand in the right spots where he was supposed to be, and then just leave, which left her trying to act in an empty space with no one really connecting with her. The result of all this was really terrible and devastating. Movie critics who write reviews said mean things about their film called Backroads, saying it didn't have any chemistry or connection between the actors. But what the people watching in the audience didn't know was that the real problem wasn't the words in the script at all. It was Tommy Lee's complete refusal to connect with her as a person or as an acting partner. For Sally, it felt like sabotage, like he was secretly ruining things, but in the quietest, coldest way possible. The emotional coldness drained all her energy, forcing her to carry all the weight of their scenes by herself, while feeling like he was undermining and hurting her work at every single step, and unlike other fights and clashes she had in her career with other people, this one left absolutely no room or possibility for them to make up and be friends again. Sally never worked with him again after that movie, and in interviews she gave later, her words were careful but heavy with meaning, and they said enough. She hadn't just survived working with a difficult co-star who was hard to work with. She had to face a man who made her feel completely invisible, like she wasn't even there. Even today, all these years later, that silence and coldness still speaks louder than any words could. Number 3. Robert Blake, complete chaos that destroyed and ruined a film. During Sally's long career in movies, one of the most dangerous and scary co-stars she ever worked with was Robert Blake. From the very first day that Sally Field had to share a movie set with him, the whole atmosphere and feeling changed from creative and exciting to completely chaotic and crazy. He didn't just push against the boundaries and rules, he completely smashed and demolished them, and dragged everyone else down into the mess and wreckage with him. During the time they were filming a movie called Say Goodbye, Maggie Cole, Sally watched with complete shock and disbelief as Blake rewrote all the rules without giving anyone any warning at all. One moment he would stick to following the script exactly as written, and the very next moment he would suddenly throw in lines he made up on the spot that weren't in the script, which completely derailed and ruined entire scenes. The cameramen, the directors, and even the other fellow actors were all left scrambling around, confused and trying to figure out what was happening. "There are actors who just act and do their job," Sally once said. And then there are actors who try to make everyone else around them feel small and unimportant, so that they themselves can feel big and important. Blake was definitely the second kind of actor. It wasn't only Sally that he targeted and treated badly. Crew members who worked behind the scenes had to endure his screaming fits and angry tirades. He would suddenly walk out without warning, and he had violent mood swings that were so unpredictable that every single workday became like a dangerous gamble where you didn't know what would happen. For Sally, who was already carrying the heavy emotional weight of a very demanding and difficult role, it felt like standing on a stage where the floor, underneath her feet, might suddenly collapse and break at any second. What should have been an exciting breakthrough project that helped her career became a complete disaster and failure. The film never even made it to being released in theaters for people to watch. It collapsed and fell apart under all the pressure and problems caused by Blake's terrible behavior. But for Sally, the scars and damage weren't just about her professional career. She described the whole experience as traumatic. And that's a very serious word that shows just how deeply it hurt her and cut into her heart. The betrayal and hurt wasn't subtle or hidden away where nobody could see. It was loud, destructive, and completely unforgettable. And staying true to her promise to herself, Sally never worked with Blake again after that. The chaos and craziness may have been what he called his art and his way of acting, but for her, it was a deep wound that never quite healed properly. Number 4. Shirley MacLaine, the diva movie star Sally couldn't stand. On the surface, when you first looked at it, it seemed like a dream pairing and perfect match. Sally Field and Shirley MacLaine, two huge Hollywood powerhouses and strong actresses sharing the screen together in a movie called Steel Magnolias. But once the cameras stopped rolling and filming, it became really clear that this wasn't a collaboration where people worked together nicely. Instead, it was combat, like a fight or a battle. From the very beginning of the project, Sally felt that things were unbalanced and unfair. She poured all of herself into the role with quiet discipline and focus, really trying hard to honor the story they were telling with authenticity and deep emotional weight. Shirley walked into the project with completely different energy. She was brash, which means bold and a bit rude. She was loud, and she was always reminding everyone around her that she had already conquered and won over Hollywood years ago what should have been teamwork, where everyone works together quickly, shifted and changed into a tug-of-war, with Shirley grabbing and seizing every single opportunity she could find to assert her dominance and show that she was in charge. As one crew member who worked on the film described it, every scene they filmed together was like a showdown or a face-off, and Sally was the one paying the price and suffering because of it. The tension and conflict reached its absolute peak during one of the film's most emotional and heart-wrenching moments. What should have been a scene filled with devastating silence that makes you cry stretched out into 17 different takes. That means they had to film it 17 times. And it wasn't because Sally messed up or faltered in her acting. It was because Shirley completely refused to play the scene straight and serious. She kept adding in quips, which are quick, clever remarks, and sarcastic asides that completely undercut and ruined the serious gravity and importance that Sally fought so hard to create in that scene. 2. The audience watching the final cut of the movie in theaters. That scene brought tears to their eyes and made them cry. But, to Sally, it carried with it the painful memory of an exhausting duel and battle that was fought just outside the camera frame where nobody could see it. Decades later, that means many years after, there's been no reconciliation or making up between them. There are no warm reunion photos of them smiling together. There's just the memory of a movie set where two legends and famous actresses collided and crashed into each other, and only one of them walked away with scars deep enough to last her entire lifetime. Number 5. James Woods. Manipulation disguised and masquerading as genius. With James Woods, the problem wasn't about shouting or creating chaos and craziness. Instead, the problem was manipulation, which means controlling someone in a sneaky, unfair way. From the very first table read, that's when actors sit around a table and read the script out loud together for the first time, of a movie called Kiss Me Goodbye, Sally Field realized and understood that she was stepping into a dangerous minefield, where every single word she said and every glance and look was a setup for his next power, play and move to control things. Woods was brilliant and super smart, absolutely no one denied that or disagreed, but his brilliance and intelligence came wrapped up in sharp edges that could hurt you. He challenged and argued with directors right in front of the crew where everyone could see and hear. He rewrote dialogue and lines without giving any warning to anyone. And he constantly picked apart and dissected Sally's acting choices as if she were just a student sitting in his classroom and he was the teacher grading her. She later admitted and confessed. It wasn't the role itself that wore me down and made me exhausted. It was having to constantly defend my worth and prove that I was good enough. Those words she spoke revealed just how deeply the experience cut into her heart and hurt her. It wasn't just artistic tension about how to perform in the movie. It was psychological warfare, like a war or battle that happens in your mind and emotions. Sally, who built her entire career on being open and showing emotional truth in her acting, found herself being crushed and squashed under Wood's intellectual weight and heavy intelligence. He didn't push her to elevate her performance and make it better. Instead, he tried to shrink her down and make her feel smaller. When the cameras weren't filming, he would casually suggest in a seemingly nice way that she wasn't giving enough in her performance, that her heart wasn't really in the work. For an actress who had fought tooth and nail, which means fought really, really hard, for respect in an industry dominated by men and controlled by males, those little jabs and insults were like poison to her spirit. They didn't challenge her in a good way to make her better. They undermined her and tried to destroy her confidence. When filming finally ended, Sally walked away feeling completely exhausted, but also wiser and smarter from the experience. She made a vow and promised to herself to never again let a man mistake his condescension, which means treating someone like they're not as good as you, for genius, and unlike some feuds and fights that mellow and get softer with time, this one never healed or got better. Woods went on to earn praise and compliments for his intensity and powerful acting. But in Sally's story and in her memory, he will forever be remembered as the co-star who turned what should have been a romantic comedy into a psychological battleground, a place of mental and emotional fighting. Number 6. Dustin Hoffman. The audition that completely humiliated Sally. Dustin Hoffman never even had to share and film a full complete movie with Sally Field to leave a scar and hurt her deeply. All it took was just one audition, one tryout, for a role, what should have been a chance and opportunity, at a promising project in the early 1980s turned into one of the most humiliating and embarrassing moments of her entire career. The room was stacked against her from the very moment she walked through the door. Hoffman was already sitting there holding court, which means acting like a king surrounded by his subjects, cracking jokes with the producers, and controlling the tone and atmosphere before Sally even opened her mouth to speak. When the reading began and they started acting out the scene, he cut her off right in the middle of her line, interrupted her. He corrected her delivery and the way she said things. And he openly questioned her acting choices right in front of everyone in that room. Sally wasn't being tested to see if they had chemistry and connection. She was being dismantled and taken apart piece by piece, like someone breaking apart a toy. It felt like auditioning for a man who had already decided in his mind that you weren't enough and weren't good enough, she later admitted and confessed. The words reveal and show more than just frustration and annoyance. They reveal how deeply she was wounded and hurt emotionally. This wasn't a clash of egos happening on equal ground between two equally powerful people. It was a power play, with Hoffman making absolutely sure that she felt small and unimportant. The sting and pain deepened even more when she later heard through other people that he had actually bragged and boasted about sabotaging the session and ruining it on purpose. He claimed there was no chemistry between them, and he was boasting and bragging that he had made sure of it deliberately. For Sally, the damage was profound and really, really deep. She questioned herself for weeks and weeks after, wondering and worrying if she had failed and messed up. But as time passed, it gave her clarity and helped her see things clearly. The problem was never her performance or her acting. It was Hoffman's need to dominate and be in control, even if it meant hurting someone else at their expense. She later called it one of the most humiliating and embarrassing experiences of her entire career, and she never forgave it or forgot what happened. After all the awards, all the applause and clapping, and all the unforgettable roles she's played, Sally Field's truth cuts deeper than any script she's ever read. 7 names, 7 actors, that she will never forgive or forget. They were legends to the world and to millions of fans, but to her personally, they left scars and wounds that never fully healed properly. What do you think about all this? Were these clashes and fights just the price she had to pay for surviving in Hollywood? Or are they proof that fame and being famous often hides the ugliest battles and worst fights that nobody sees? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to see more untold stories from behind the scenes of Hollywood's brightest and most famous stars.